There is a lot of good with Tesla and its vehicles, but there is also some bad, some things that probably should be addressed. Since taking delivery of my Model 3 just a little over a year ago, I've had a lot of problems that I think should be addressed. Software problems, hardware problems, some issues that I probably should have taken note of before I signed the paperwork and driven off the lot, so to speak, when I took delivery of the Model 3 at that time. And now I'm kind of living with those consequences. In this video, I kind of want to break down the issues I've had with my Model 3, sort of pull back the curtain a bit and give you my 1 year perspective of owning the car and the problems that I've had. I have a full kind of longer form detailed review of the vehicle that I will leave a link to up here and down below that kind of gives my 1 year experience. Spoiler alert, it's overwhelmingly positive, but I have had some issues that I think should be discussed. So here are all of the problems I have had with my Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus. So let's start with the big stuff, the cosmetic stuff. I've heard some really awful horror stories and read some pretty lengthy Reddit posts about people who have had some just really bad luck with Tesla and their service centers. And if I could offer you any piece of advice after dealing with Tesla myself and getting other cars and reading a lot of Reddit threads, it's that you should not accept delivery of the vehicle if there's anything wrong with the vehicle that you want to get fixed that isn't up to your standards. I mean, you're paying a lot of money for this car. If it's not right, don't accept delivery. Because if you do accept delivery, there are a couple of things that could happen. One is Tesla could not fix the issue that you have. They could say you did something wrong or you signed over the paperwork. They waive any liability. It's better just to get all that stuff corrected before you take delivery of the vehicle, or they could be kind and take care of it and they'll service it and take care of it for you, honor the warranty. But dealing with Tesla service centers is notoriously not a very pleasant experience, so it's definitely better to get that stuff taken care of before delivery. In my experience, I had no major show-stopping issues. There were no paint chips or rock chips. I mean, here's a video of the car 24 hours after I got it. I mean, it was in pretty immaculate condition. It looked really good. But the one issue I had with the car that you can kind of see in this video is the chrome trim on the passenger side of the vehicle is just not exactly lined up. It's a little misaligned there. There's a little gap, just enough to kind of drive you crazy. Okay, so besides the cosmetic stuff, which I was pretty lucky I was able to avoid any real major issues just besides that little chrome trim, I have had a slew of hardware issues and software issues. Let's start with the software, because this is something I noticed like day 3 of owning the car, and it's something that I still experience, I'd say once every 3 or 4 weeks or so, and it's this mysterious random screen shutoff. I'll be driving on the freeway, I'll have autopilot on even, and the screen, the center screen there for the Tesla just shuts off and goes to black. Typically after a few seconds, it'll go into its reboot process, which is fine, and it means the system is rebooting. But if you've never been in this situation, it's a little jarring, especially when you just got the car. I mean, I was 3 days into owning the car. I'm driving down the freeway, still trying to get used to no instrument cluster, no gauge cluster, the speedometer, everything is on the screen, and it just goes black while you're driving at 75 miles an hour on a Southern California freeway. Suffice it to say, not the most fun experience, and it's something I've continued to have issues with. I don't really know why. I thought software updates would help. It does seem to have gotten better. It doesn't happen as frequently. I'm not sure if it's a specific task that is crashing or something with my MCU or something like that. I'm not really sure, but it does happen enough to take note of. It happened way more when I first got the car, and I guess kind of was a little hesitant about it, and it is kind of weird just to see that screen crash. But I kind of just let software updates do its thing. Luckily, it's gotten a little bit better, but it is still an issue I experience time and time again. Like I said, probably once a month. I'm not exactly sure why this happens, but it is an issue I still continue to face today. If you guys have the same issue, let me know in the comments down below. Another common issue that seems to happen time and time again, and I don't think this is probably specific to my car, but just Teslas in general, is stuck downloads. I remember especially around the big version 10 software release, I'd get an update that would just not exactly complete. It would maybe get 50%, 60%, it would stop and restart. I even had a couple of, big software updates that went 100% and then just for some reason went all the way back to 0 and had to be re-downloaded again. This is especially annoying for me because I don't have Wi-Fi in my parking garage at my apartment, so all the software updates I do are over good old mobile tethering and mobile data. So everything takes a little bit longer, it's a little bit more finicky. I have to dedicate some time to doing it because usually I can't download a whole software update during my typical commute. So I'm usually out, I'm sitting in the car, I'm waiting for it to download. It gets a little annoying. Let's rapid fire some other software issues I've had. I've talked about before in a previous video up here, my microphone in my car stopped working. I think this was due to this specific software update at the time. I do a couple of voice commands, it would just not work after 2 or 3. I'd have to reboot the entire system to get it working again. It was super annoying. That seems to be fixed for the most part, but I do have issues now, probably occasionally happens, that when I go to make a phone call, my microphone doesn't work. The person just cannot hear me. I can sometimes hear them, I sometimes cannot hear them. Usually I have to switch over just to the speakerphone on my phone because the Bluetooth to the car just doesn't work. The only way to fix this is to do a full reboot of the car, and that seems to help, but that's been happening a lot recently. And even more than that, a weird issue I've had lately is my speakers not working right. This usually happens when I go to initiate a phone call again, so maybe it's something with the phone process and Bluetooth streaming, but even though I don't have any issue with Bluetooth audio streaming, just phone calls, what'll happen is, this is really weird, I will go to make a call and I will hear a split second of the phone ringing, and then I'll hear a crackle on the speakers, like a little, audio feedback, interference crackle, and then silence, nothing. I turn the turn signal, I hear nothing. I go to play music, I hear nothing. The speakers in my car just stop working altogether. Again, you guessed it, a full reboot is required to get this working, and then usually it's fine. But I've had that happen like twice or 3 times now in the past 2 months, and I have no idea why this happens. And it's really weird. It's usually, again, just when I go to do a phone call or maybe when I play a song, I'll hear just a short little crackle pop and then nothing. I don't know if this is hardware related. It kind of sounds like that, though a software update fixes it, so I'm not sure exactly what it is. But that's a new one for me. That has been happening in my Model 3, but like I said, 2 or 3 times over the last 2 to 3 months. Another fun issue I've been having somewhat frequently that I actually got to record on video for you guys is that my screen when I get in my car sometimes doesn't wake up. The car wakes up, the car unlocks, I'm able to get in there, I'm able to go into drive and start driving out of my apartment complex, but the screen doesn't wake up. I think once or twice after about a minute, the screen just magically popped on. The other time, I actually had to press and hold on the scroll wheel buttons to do a full reboot to get it to wake up. I'm not sure what exactly caused that. Again, I can be moving in the car, driving it like normal, and the screen just it doesn't wake up. Because, the car kind of goes in a sleep state. You go in the car in the morning, you wake it up, you get in. Usually the screen pops up in a matter of seconds. I've had it happen where the screen just is black, doesn't wake up, nothing seems to wake it up besides just a full reboot. Sometimes, like I said, it'll fix itself, but other times a full reboot is required to get it to fully wake up. And then last but not least, for my software tales of woe, I had another issue happen the other day that was really weird. It was that my car would not reboot. It kind of got stuck in a very kind of, not scary scenario, but a very compromising scenario. So I was driving down on the freeway, coming home from work, going about 75 miles an hour, had autopilot on, and I had a weird issue with tune-in radio. If you're a Tesla owner, you know it's notoriously very flaky with Spotify and all that stuff, and I just could not get a station to play. It would play, pause, play, pause, play, pause, just wasn't working. So I thought, okay, got to do a reboot. That usually seems to help it. Only issue was that this time when I went to go do the reboot, the car got stuck somewhere halfway in the reboot, and then it just stopped. So I was driving and I could kind of see the corner of my eye with the wireless charger. Usually you can tell the car is about to wake up because the power is restored to the wireless charging pad. So I see the lights light up. Okay, that usually means in about 5 seconds the screen's going to turn on and I should be good to go. I saw the power indicator light pop up and flash for 2 seconds, but then it went back to a off state, and then the screen never turned on. And I held the buttons on the steering wheel for a good probably 2 minutes, and the screen was just not turning on. It was almost like it had gotten stuck somewhere halfway through a reboot and just would not turn back on. I know usually when you do a soft reboot, sometimes it does take a while for that screen to reboot and to see that Tesla T logo. I get that. This was in extenuating circumstance because it was taking way longer than usual. Probably took a good 3 minutes of just holding those buttons down for the car screen to actually reboot. Once it rebooted, everything seemed fine, but that was a first for me. That's only happened one time where the car was halfway through a reboot and then stopped rebooting. And again, you're going on the freeway now, you have no speedometer. And I guess I should just clarify, as far as I know, even though you can't hear your turn signal, it still is actually working because that's a safety thing. Obviously, your car functions still work, park, drive, neutral, alt, reverse, all that stuff still works. Though autopilot will still work while the car is rebooting, though it doesn't really give you the option to obviously change the speed. And then important to note as well, once you disengage autopilot and the car is rebooting, you cannot re-engage it because obviously the system is rebooting. So I would caution anyone who reboots their car while on autopilot, probably best to take over full control and not trust autopilot when the system is rebooting, though it still does work as long as you're still engaged before you reboot the car. Sounds a little weird, but it does still work, though it's a very tricky situation. I probably would not recommend, again, running autopilot while the car is in the middle of a reboot. So now that we've talked about software, what hardware issues have I had with the car besides the microphone, though I think that was software? The only real hardware issue I have had with the car, and I mentioned this in my full 12-month retrospective review, is my driver's side seat. For some reason, this seems to happen when the car is sitting out in sunlight in moderate heat, not really heat though. In Southern California, it could be 75, 80 degrees. If it sits outside for a while, I've had this happen twice where I get into the car and go to get to my driver profile and my seat is stuck. It will not move forward. It will not move backward. It's just like the motors are just kind of turning and nothing is happening. I have looked under the seat. Nothing is obstructing the little track. There's nothing obstructing it from moving. Everything sounds normal. Nothing is in the way. The seat just refuses to move. I have tried a software reboot, obviously, and that doesn't really help because it seems like a mechanical issue. I have tried, obviously, parking, coming back in a few hours. It just doesn't seem to work. I was actually in the process of making a service center appointment for this issue because I literally could not move my seat when I came down to the car, I think, a day and a half later, and then suddenly it just started working again. I had this happen again, same kind of issue, I think a month or two later, seat just wouldn't work. It's only that specific seat for a certain reason, and it only seems to happen if the car is seated, or I guess not seated, but positioned outside for a few hours where it just doesn't work. I don't know if the track needs any kind of lubrication for those parts. There's nothing obviously underneath. Again, there's nothing that's obstructing it. It just doesn't work. And then a day and a half later, it just starts working again. So that's something I probably should make a service center appointment for, but usually when it starts working, I get a little lazy and I just don't want to deal with it. But that has been the one kind of weird hardware issue I've had that is not software related, at least not that I know of. All right, and I think that's it. That is all of the issues I've had with my Model 3. And though it might sound like a lot or a little, depending on your perspective, I consider myself lucky because, again, I have heard the horror stories. I have read the Reddit threads. There have been some pretty gnarly issues people have had. People have gotten their brand new car not even home yet to their driveway, and the system just crashes and they have to get it towed. Teslas are wonderful vehicles, and I try to do my best to show the pros and the cons. And as much as I love the car, I think we got to tell Tesla when there are issues, and there are definitely some issues out there that need to be addressed, and I hope that videos like this can kind of shed some light. Not to discourage anyone from buying a Model 3. I love the car. I love everything about it, but I do want to be open, honest, and candid about the issues that I have had so you guys kind of have an understanding of what owning a Tesla entails and what issues you could run into. So anyways, that's the issues I've had with my car. Again, nothing too major, very minor, and something that a lot of them actually will just get hopefully improved and happen a lot less frequently, if at all, with software updates. It's the beauty of software updates. It should fix a lot of these issues. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below. If you have had any issues like this, I'd love to hear about them. Any corrections, any recommendations, suggestions would be greatly appreciated. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and I will see you in the next one.